So in the last lesson, you guys learned about adding and subtracting equations. And today we're going to talk about solving multiplication and division equations. Very, very similar. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we isolate the variable. We want to get the variable alone. Okay. Then we're going to use the inverse operation. So the opposite operation. And lastly, what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side. So here we have an example, okay? So this is 5 times m equals 25. Now remember, anytime you have a number next to a variable, that means multiplication, okay? It's just like there are parentheses around this, okay? So we have 5 times n equals 25. So just like I did, or just like we learned when we were doing addition and subtraction, I want you to make your equal track so that we can see both sides of the equation, okay? So this is multiplication, 5 times m. So what is the inverse operation of multiplication? So what undoes multiplication? Well, that is division. So we are going to divide this side by 5. So I'm going to circle, before I do that, I'm going to circle my variable, okay? Because I want to get this alone. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a line underneath this because remember, this means division. And I'm going to divide it by 5, okay? So if I divide 5 by 5, I'm going to get 1m. So this actually cancels out, just like it did when we were doing adding and subtracting, okay? So on this side, I will have m equals, and then remember, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So I divided by 5 on the left side of the equation, so I have to divide by 5 on the right side. So what is 25 divided by 5? Well, I know that that is 5. 5 times 5 gives me 25. So m equals 5. I could check that. I could rewrite the whole thing. I could write 5 times, and m, we're going to substitute, is 5. 5 times 5 equals 25, so I know I'm correct. Let's do one more quick one where the variable is on the right-hand side. Okay, so here I have 12 equals 2y, or 12 equals 2 times y, okay? So same thing. I'm going to make my equal track, okay, to separate both sides. And I know this is multiplication, and what is the inverse operation of multiplication? That is division. So I'm going to, before I divide, I'm going to circle my variable so I know that's what I want to get alone. I want that to be all by itself on the right-hand side. So to do that, I'm going to divide. We use the inverse operation. I'm going to divide by 2, and that will cancel itself out. Okay, 2 divided by 2 is 1. That will give me 1y, or just y. So remember, I got to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to divide this side by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 6 equals y, or I can say y equals 6. Okay, same thing. So this is my answer. I could also plug it back in and I could check just like I did up here. So this is how we do our solving multiplication equations, okay? Now let's look at division because you will be doing this as well. If you notice, they're the same 3 steps. Isolate the variable, use the inverse operation, and what you do to one side, you must do to the other. But this is a division problem, okay? I'm sorry, division equation. So let's look at the examples that we have. And sometimes you'll see division set up differently. Sometimes you'll see it like this, where the variable is on top, okay? And sometimes you'll see it like this, where you actually have a division sign. But just remember, anytime you see this, it'll kind of look, it's like a fraction. This line represents division. Okay, so same thing. We're going to make our equal track, okay? This is m divided by 3. I'm going to circle my variable m because that's what I want to isolate. I want to get that alone on the left-hand side. And I'm dividing by 3 on this side, so that means I have to multiply by 3. Okay, because the inverse operation of division is multiplication. I'm going to write that up here. Inverse of division is, I'll put is, not equals, is multiplication. Okay, that undoes my division. So I multiply by 3 on here over on this side, and that's going to cancel itself out. Okay. Now I have to look over on this side. Anything I do to the left side, I must do to the right side. So I'm going to multiply by 3. 10 times 3. Okay, so that's going to give me m, my variable, on the left side, and it's going to give me 30 on the right side. So let's think about this for a second, okay? Because this one can be a little bit confusing. Let's plug this back in. Let's say m equals 30, okay? So instead of m, I'm going to put 30 divided by 3 equals 10, okay? Or 30 over 3 equals 10. What is 30 divided by 3? Oh, 3 times 10 gives me 30. So on this side, I'll have 10. 30 divided by 3 is 10, and 10 equals 10, okay? That is why m equals 30 is true, okay? So let's look over here because this is the same exact equation, but it's written differently. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw my equal track. I can see a division sign here. Okay, m divided by 3 equals 10. I know the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So I'm going to, before I multiply, I'm going to circle my variable because that's what I want to isolate. I want to get that alone. I'm going to multiply by 3. That will cancel out. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply this side by 3. What is 10 times 3? That is 30. And on this side, I have m all by itself. So I have m equals 30. So if you look, it's the same equation written differently with the same answer. Okay, so let's do one more quick one. I have 7 equals a divided by 5. I'm going to draw my equal track. I see it's division, so I'm going to use multiplication. That is the opposite, the inverse operation, which will cancel out. So now on this side, I will have just a, which is what I want. I want the variable on that side by itself. And on this side, I'm going to have to multiply by 5 because I did it over here. So what is 7 times 5? That is 35. So a equals 35. Okay. This is the exact same equation written differently. I draw my equal track. I have to get the a all by itself. So a divided by 5, the opposite of division is multiplication. So I multiply it by 5. Okay, this will cancel out. So now I have a all by itself, and I'm going to multiply this side by 5. What is 7 times 5? That is 35. 35 equals a. Okay, so this is how we solve our division equations.